Hi, I'm Dr. Derek Lee. Today I'm excited to meet Jamie Haggard, who is the CEO of Green Sun Medical. He's going to show me the Whisper Brace today. I'm super excited. It's the first time I've actually gotten my hands on the Whisper Brace. I've heard so much about it, seen lots of videos, lots of patient feedback, but I just want to see what it feels like in my hands and how it compares to other braces in terms of size, movement, and that sort of thing. So let's check it out. Okay, Jamie. So I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about the Whisper Brace in terms of how does it apply forces to the areas that need it, but still maintain flexibility?
We are doing the same thing that other braces are doing in the sense that if you have a curve, you have to get above the curve, below the curve on one side, and then you have to apply pressure onto the apex of the curve. This is little Emmy's brace that she wore for a year and a half. I'll turn it around. She has a right thoracic curve, so we're applying pressure on her apex. We have an axilla component that goes up to her armpit, and it's capturing the top of her curve, and then we're also capturing below the curve. This captures her left lumbar curve, and with a lumbar curve, you can't just press laterally, you need to press basically around their kidneys, and you're helping drive rotation. So we're able to anchor off the hips and then provide the counter pressure on the curves, but we also provide derotational pressure. So if you look at the Whisper this way, you can see that we're aggressively going after the rib hump and trying to provide derotational pressure up high. Some of the other things that are nice are as these kids are growing, and if we get curve correction, we can pop this cover, and there's a couple of screws that we can loosen up, and we can bring this component closer into the patient. So as they're coming in on like a 3-month follow-up, we can move this component and help provide continuous corrective pressure as they're growing. We also have, I'm kind of probably show the screws here, but we have 8 different sizes of this component, so we can actually change it as they grow, or if you're during the first fitting, if it's a little bit too high, we can pull it off and put on a little bit smaller one. The same thing with the components. These black kind of shock absorber looking things, we call them actuators. We can loosen those up, and they're threaded. These determine the height of the rings, and so we can loosen those up and increase the height of the Whisper as they are growing, because you could have a perfectly fitting brace, and if they grow a couple of inches, those pads are no longer in the right place. They can come in for a follow-up and quickly modify it and increase the height of it, so we're putting pressure exactly where it needs to go.
So in general, those white parts, those plastic segments, they stay with the child as they keep growing, and then you just swap in and out the other components?
Yeah, we swap out basically the black components. By the time they've grown enough that they need new ring components, it's probably time for a new Whisper. The patients in a Whisper, usually if you last about a year in a Boston, you're probably lasting a year and a half or 2 years in a Whisper, because we can go with the growth. Once they get big enough, then it's time for a new one.
Jamie, can you take me through some other practical features of the brace?
Yeah, when we were early in the company and interviewing a lot of parents and kids, we knew the bracing worked, but it was about compliance and why aren't you wearing your brace? One of the things many of the kids said was it came down to gym class, because they would have to leave a class early, go to the nurses, drop off their brace, and then go to gym class because they couldn't get it in their locker. So when we were designing it, we wanted to make it as easy as possible to get on and off. And then we also found and were able to get these buckles. They're magnetic. They come off very easily. And it opens up, and then they can slide it into a locker where a lot of them, they couldn't get their regular brace in. What we also heard from many of the girls, we thought these buckles were really cool because they're magnetic and they go on and off really easy, and the girls were saying they loved them, until I finally asked them why. And they all said it's because it's quiet. When I'm in gym class and I have to rip off the Velcro on my Boston brace, everybody comes around the corner and looks at me. With the Whisper, I can just pop it off quietly, take it off, slide it into my locker, and nobody even knows. And then I can take it off and easily slide it up under my shirt, and nobody even knows I was wearing it.
Let's switch it over. I'm just going to talk about it a little bit. All right, happy to really get my hands on a whisper brace finally, because I just love the idea of a flexible, really truly dynamic brace, but it's strong enough in the right areas that it can actually correct a curve, right? So in flexion extension, lots of movement. I'm not applying a lot of pressure, which I love. Um, but I was worried about the lateral movement, how stiff it was, and it's pretty stiff. And I like that because there must be some correction that it's adding, but it also means that the person has to actually work their muscles to make changes in their posture, right? So good to see. And also I was worried about how rigid is this, but when they fasten it, there's a lot of force here that you can't really bend it very much. So I was looking for that as well. Fascinating. Great to get my hands on a Whisper finally, and looking for how much impact in the future this is going to make in the industry, and how much this is going to help kids in the future.